You are listening to the Political Periscope, a weekly podcast brought to you by Radio Wnet. Interviews on international politics, security, geopolitics, economy, and more. Every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Today's guest of the Political Periscope is Pavlo Klimkin, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
Political Periscope.
In news from last moment, few rockets were launched towards Odessa just after the agreement on export of Ukrainian grain. Could you comment it?
Well, some people have just written to me, is there any logic here? I believe there is a clear logic by the Russians. And the logic is to raise the stakes further and to say, first, it all depends on us. So any sort of future export with this agreement or without fully depends on us. So the message is kind of behave in a good way, and it would go on. If not, the whole idea will be disrupted. The second message, the same way clear. They got weakening up of sanctions as an important part of this agreement. Now they want more. The signal, we need more and more as the whole export runs on. And the third one, this message is for everybody, for us, for Ukraine, for the West, and for Turkey. So the answer should be also a joint one. It's the only way how we can produce a strong answer. And Putin understands only strengths. You can talk to him only from the point of strength, inclusively. There is no other way. He does not understand win-win. He understands history and foreign policy as a sequence of special operations, because he was trained as a KGB guy. So it's about raising the stakes. So I believe there is a clear logic here.
Is any kind of agreement with Russia possible?
Any sort of peace agreement is not possible, in my understanding. Firstly, there is no trust towards this regime, clearly, not in Kyiv, not in the West. Secondly, of course, under certain conditions, we can come to a ceasefire or something. But again, let me stress, I don't believe in any peace deal with this regime. So I plainly don't believe in any sustainable peace deal with the current regime in Moscow. Just to stress it again.
What would have to happen that would let Ukraine sign a peace deal with Russia?
We have to be strong enough to counter any Russian attack. We need to have security agreements. We need to have defense and military potential to be able to counter any, and I have to stress it, any sort of Russian attack, to make any sort of peace deal sustainable. And of course, and for me it's a red line, any peace deal is possible when we are able to say Ukraine is liberated, in the sense of territories and in the sense of our people. Before the liberation of Ukraine, I can't imagine any sustainable peace deal. It's as simple as that.
Including Crimea?
Including Crimea, oh, absolutely. It's fundamentally, well, again, and it's very important to understand. Of course, there could be some ceasefire agreements. There could be other agreements. It's difficult to say now because it's gonna depend on situation on the ground, on situation along the battle lines. But there should not be, and there can be, let's put it this way, in a double way, any sort of peace deal, sustainable peace deal, without liberation of all the territories. So again, some kind of ceasefire still possible in some moment in time, not now, because I don't believe Putin is now ready for any sort of reasonable negotiations. But sustainable peace deal without liberation of all the territories is definitely no.
Is it possible in the foreseeable future?
Well, of course it's possible. Russia is getting towards a kind of big North Korea reality. The sanctions are working. They can't change Putin's behavior from one day to another. We are not naive. And we are not naive in the sense of saying there's going to be a kind of rebellion in Russia tomorrow. We are again not naive, but the pressure of the whole Western world is there. The support for Ukraine of the whole Western world is there. And we already clearly shown that Putin fundamentally miscalculated attacking Ukraine. He is not ready to get any big result in Ukraine so far. Now it's a war of attrition, and the image of the Russian regime and Putin himself had been always based on fear and respect for the strength. Now the respect basically has gone. There is no respect for the strength of this regime as before. Of course, nuclear weapons is still there. Of course, Russian potential is still there. But this mythology about invincibility of the Russian army, of the Russian weaponry is gone. And basically it's about us Ukrainians who proved, we can win against Russia. And especially we can win together with the West. So fundamentally it's about clear understanding that current Russia is not sustainable.
So no saving Putin's face?
No way. I plainly reject it. And all these ideas about humiliating Putin, not humiliating Putin, it's not about that. It's about winning this war. And we understand it's not possible probably today, but it's going to be possible tomorrow. And sooner or later, they all understand, also in Russia, that Russia keeps losing. Keeps losing in the sense of real income, keeps losing in the sense of technology level, keeps losing in the sense of military, basically becoming the pariah of this world. Because Russia lost respect not only by the Western world, Russia also lost respect in Asia, for example. I clearly see it talking to the Asians. So at the end of the day, it's about going towards the past, not towards the future. And it's basically what is going on in current Russia.
It seems that Germans would like to save Putin's face and to not humiliate him. Do you think that maybe Germany is not as credible, as valuable partner as it was thought to be earlier in Ukraine?
Germany is of course is an important partner. And in the time of war, we can't basically picking up best friends and not the best ones. But it's clearly the lack of German leadership now in Europe. And German leadership is needed. My point is not just about weapons, not just about the speed and quality of weapons. And of course, there are different sensitive moments. But my simple point, why the Germans are not training Ukrainian militaries? They have all the facilities, they have potential, and it's not about weapons. It's as simple as that. Our Polish friends are contributing to all the spheres. It's not just about weapons, it's about training, it's about all the issues. So why you are not there? And it's a simple question which needs to be answered. Also by the Germans, it's a simple question which needs to be answered in the sense of economic support, because economic resilience, it is the same way important for Ukraine as the victory on the battlefield. So I can say that that Germany is not the best partner, but I clearly say that we need more leadership from Germany, and now and even yesterday.
Isn't it German leadership that led Europe into deepening energetic dependence on Russia?
No, it's not about German leadership. It's basically about German complacency, which led Europe where we are now. It's about enjoying being junkie on Russian gas and Russian energy resources. It's about enjoying this sphere of comfort, and now it's over. And now we have very interesting discussions on solidarity within the European Union. When the European Commission had proposed, let's cut gas consumption by 15% because of the Russians limiting supply. And the Spanish rightly said, look guys, we were bearing the whole burden of expensive gas, because for us it was about LNG terminals, and we understood that just depending on someone is not the way forward. And now it's not about blame game, it's about solidarity, but let's clearly understand that it's not one for all approach. And I believe they are completely right, and there should be a fair approach out of this situation.
We are here in Prague on the Forum of Free Nations of Russia, where representatives of peoples and nations inside of Russian Federation gathered to talk about their independence, possible independence, their rights. There are also separatist movements in Ukraine. What's the difference?
What kind of separatist movements?
Donbass, Luhansk?
No, it's not separatist movements. It's the Russians simply present there directly and indirectly. I clearly recall, I'm a football fan, I don't know whether you're a football fan, you should be, yeah? But I'm a football fan, and I clearly recall our European Championship 2012, and I remember all the European and Ukrainian flags in Donetsk, and I know a lot of people there, so it's all sort of clearly Russian meddling and Russian conspiracy from the very beginning. In the same way like Putin had been planning the attack on Ukraine for quite a while. So it's not about any sort of separatist movement. It's really orchestrated and made by the Russians. And I don't believe in any separatist movement. It's just Russia using, probably in the Crimea, it's about using kind of Soviet nostalgia. And even now they come up with the idea of returning so-called Soviet brands. They want to resurrect a mixture of empire and Soviet Union because they don't like any identity beside their imperial identity. And here it's a very interesting conversation, and people have completely different emotions. They are watching Ukrainians fighting, and they keep saying now, well, if the Ukrainians can fight and can pull it off, why us? Are not able to pull it off in the future. And for me, it's not about breaking up Russia or not breaking up Russia. For me, it's not about any kind of new federation or confederation. It's about them to decide what to do with Russia. But we found a very interesting discussion. We started working on different ideas, and if they believe they need this conversation, we are there, and our interest is very clear, and there's nothing to hide. here. We are fundamentally interested to have any neighbors which won't be a threat for Ukraine in the future, for the Ukrainian nation, for the Ukrainian statehood. Putin believes everything Ukrainian is artificial, our statehood, our history, our nation, and we proved him wrong. So it's up to them now to prove Putin's concept of empire and new Soviet Union wrong.
How do you see the role and maybe autonomy of Crimean Tatars in Ukraine after the war?
Well, of course, they should play a role because it's about their history. I read a lot about their history. I talked through the whole narrative of their history. And I believe their narrative should play a role in Ukraine. I'm also for, teaching a bit of Crimean Tatars history in all Ukrainian schools, and even the basics of the Crimean Tatar language. Why not? Because it's about solidarity, it's about unity for the future Ukraine. Of course, we can't learn the language as such, but we need to understand them, and it's really about new sense of unity for the Ukrainians as a new political nation.
And this autonomy, they are not asking for territorial autonomy, but national autonomy in frames of Ukraine. Do you think it is possible?
Look, it's about future discussion. It's not about myself saying what gonna happen. It's about sitting together, drinking coffee or tea, talking as friends, talking as Ukrainian citizens, and to define the future of Ukraine. I believe a lot what we had as a remnants of the Soviet Union in Ukraine will evaporate. I am a big fan of having a new constitution in the new Ukraine. We're going to be getting towards the European Union. And of course, the European Union needs new Ukraine. Totally reshuffled Ukraine. It's not just about rebuilding Ukraine. Recovery is not about rebuilding. Recovery is about transforming Ukraine. So we can say what we're going to have in the future. We need to sit together to talk to each other honestly and define the future pattern of how it would look like.
Last question. What do you think about the dismissal of the head of the security service of Ukraine, Ivan Bakanov?
I believe we have the president and he's in charge of the country, especially in the time of war. It's up to him to decide who gonna run security agencies. So fundamentally, I believe we need the sense of unity and we need the sense of purposes over this time. And I clearly believe that it's a fundamental responsibility of the president to decide who will run our military and our security agencies in the time of war. It's as simple as that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
This was the Political Periscope. The podcast is released every Thursday at 7 p.m.